A bend, a wire, a legacy. Before there was order, there were documents. And before documents, there was chaos. The kind of chaos that left breadcrumbs of human desperation. There is a moment in every civilization where someone somewhere tries to keep things together, literally. But before glue, before folders, even before staplers, there was only hope. And hope, as you may know, is terrible at keeping things in place. Tonight's journey begins not with invention, but with hesitation. The kind of slow, creeping realization that things, papers mostly, are drifting apart, slipping, curling, falling, one by one. Like autumn leaves, but dumber. A man stares at a pile of documents. He sighs. He does not innovate. Not yet. He simply watches. A page, a corner, a curl, a problem. Long before the paperclip, there were string bundles, wax seals, and stones. Yes, stones. The prehistoric filing system. A rock placed firmly on top of a stack. A method as effective as it was indifferent. Historians rarely talk about the era of weight-based document management. Perhaps because it was not an era at all, just a long, silent embarrassment. Still, it worked, mostly, until it didn't. The first attempt at improvement was string, or twine, or, depending on which scholar you ignore, textile entanglement-based document cohesion. This method required patience, skill, and a deep misunderstanding of efficiency. Imagine wrapping a 20-page scroll with a 3-meter rope. Now imagine unwrapping it. Now imagine doing that 5 times before noon. This was known as the golden age of regret. Efficiency, elegance, entanglement, an era of knots. And yet, no one questioned it, because no one dared. Bureaucracy, even then, had a way of silencing creativity. Innovation was treated as rebellion. Rebellion was discouraged through forms, handwritten, in triplicate, sometimes with wax. Let us now pause and reflect, not because the moment demands it, but because silence, like paper, can be folded, delicately, pointlessly. Back to our story. The 19th century was an age of speed, steam, telegraphs, hats. Paper flooded desks like bureaucratic rain. Reports, memos, invoices. All necessary, all fluttering. And somewhere, in the fog of office anxiety, came a thought. A dangerous, forbidden thought. What if I bend a wire? A pause. A longer pause. Tea is sipped. Wire is examined. And history, such as it is, begins to forget itself. Because a paperclip was not born of glory, it was born of mild inconvenience. So there it was, a wire, bent, not to change the world, but to hold 2 pages, briefly. The age of almost paperclips. Progress, like soup, takes time, and occasionally spills. Before the modern paperclip slithered its way into stationery drawers and institutional indifference, there were attempts. Not failures, no, that would imply someone cared. There were pins, sharp, eager, and problematic. They worked, in the way fire works on an envelope. Effective, brief, and unnecessarily violent. A jab, a puncture, a job, done. But pins had one fatal flaw. They left holes. Not metaphorical ones like in society or in post-lunch motivation. Actual physical holes in paper, in thumbs, in morale. It was the perforation era, a time historians now consider unremarkable and archivists consider tragic. Then came the clasp, less dangerous, more finicky. You pressed, it bent. You released, it sprang, unless it didn't. Clips like these were used with cautious optimism, mostly in European ministries, mostly to clip things that no one would read. It was innovation with paperwork. And with innovation came marketing. Phrases like, secure your documents, the modern way, no more bloodshed at the office, Were these slogans real? No. But could they have been? Absolutely. Let us now take a moment to imagine an early office. Wooden furniture, oil lamps, a clock that ticks with exaggerated self-importance. A clerk sits, sighs, and lifts a document. He stares at it, as though waiting for divine fastening. Instead, he reaches for a binding needle, which, of course, is missing. So he uses a button. Yes, a button. Necessity is the mother of absurdity. It holds, briefly, then falls, forever. No one remembers that document. It was, by most accounts, irrelevant, but it fluttered away with grace. Elsewhere, an idea brews. In Norway, or possibly Germany, or maybe Ohio, history, when dealing with mediocrity, becomes evasive. But someone, somewhere, takes a wire, bends it. Not once, not twice, but thrice, in an oblong, indecisive loop. The result? Something vaguely useful, something aggressively dull, something almost like a paperclip. Innovation rarely shouts. Sometimes it just curves. The shape was imperfect, but then again, so was the problem. And so the almost paperclip lived, briefly, humbly, forgotten by design. The paperclip before the paperclip. Not all inventions are born. Some are tolerated into existence. By the late 19th century, the world was exhausted, industrialized, categorized, slightly louder. Factories churned, typewriters clacked, and documents multiplied like unmonitored rabbits in an empty archive room. Paper, once sacred, was now disposable, but the need to keep it from blowing away, eternal. So came the gem, not a jewel, but a shape, a humble double-looped piece of wire, bent with just enough intention to imply a purpose, and just enough doubt to never fully commit to it. Not quite a spiral, not quite a crime. The gem paperclip, the one we know, the one you've definitely lost at the bottom of a drawer, appeared. Quietly, unceremoniously, like a bored intern arriving 2 minutes early. But was it invented, or did it simply happen? There is no record of its conception. No patent, no ceremony, no brass band. It's as if the world woke up, yawned, and found it sitting there, on a desk, holding 2 irrelevant notes about coal shipments and an unpaid invoice for starch. And that was enough. A loop, a tensioned lie. The gem was functional, elegant, almost invisible, like a bureaucratic miracle. And so, it spread. Manufacturers noticed, which was unfortunate, because what followed was the era of unnecessary improvement. Designers began bending wires into increasingly inefficient shapes. Triangular clips, clips with wings, clips with decorative hats, one that resembled a startled goose. Each promised something. None delivered. One patent, dated 1903, claimed to elevate the morale of office workers through ornamental fastening. It did not. Another boasted increased aerodynamic efficiency. Of what? No one knows. Perhaps flighty reports. Hope, like wire, is bendable, but easily tangled. At this point, we must introduce a man. His name was Johan Wahler, Norwegian, patent holder, optimist. He filed a design for a paperclip in Germany, a shape inferior to the gem, slightly more rigid, slightly less efficient, slightly proud. Norway would later claim him as the inventor of the paperclip. This is both true and not. He bent, the world did not. The Wahler clip was not produced in his lifetime. It was rediscovered, celebrated, mostly by patriotic brochures and commemorative stamps. And yet, the gem continued, silently, efficiently, unbothered. Thus ended the first chapter of our tale, not with invention, but with quiet standardization. The paperclip was not chosen. It remained, like background music or linoleum. And in remaining, it became inevitable. Clips and Nations, a misunderstanding. Sometimes an object is just an object, unless someone decides it isn't. The paperclip, having done its quiet job for several decades, was content, or at least unaware. It held documents. It fell into rugs. It was accidentally chewed on during meetings that felt longer than most marriages. And then, without warning, it became a symbol. Not of efficiency, not of clever design, but of resistance. Yes, resistance, because history, unlike wire, does not bend gently. The year, 1940. The place, occupied Norway. The mood, complicated. Symbols were banned. Flags forbidden. Expressions of unity were flattened, filed, and shelved, often literally. And yet, people still needed to say, "We're here," not loudly, but precisely. Enter the paperclip. A loop, a quiet refusal. Worn in lapels, on pockets, hidden but visible. It meant nothing officially, and everything unofficially. It said, "We are together. We will not unravel." The occupiers, unimpressed by metaphor, eventually banned the item, not because of danger, but because of dignity. To ban a fastener is to fear the bound. Ironically, the paperclip became famous, not for its function, but for its metaphor. Decades later, tourists would visit Norway and buy commemorative clips, gold-plated, velvet-boxed, functionally useless, but emotionally sticky, which, arguably, is even more annoying. Back in factories, however, the paperclip was still being bent, not in protest, but in bulk. Tons of wire, miles of loops, a choreography of small machines doing one thing over and over again, forever. There was no ceremony, no applause, no moral, just rhythm. Bend, slide, compress, release, repeat. A ballet for no one. There's a rumor, likely untrue, that one machine in Michigan has bent over 4 billion paperclips, and that it has never been turned off. Not even once. A kind of mechanical monk. If it ever stops, it's unclear whether the machine will weep or finally exhale. From symbol to supply closet, the paperclip contains multitudes, all of them vaguely metallic. And so, it stayed. Stubborn, bent, and increasingly unappreciated. The drawer, where clips go to die. Not every grave is marked. Some are made of felt, with a sliding mechanism. The office drawer. A landscape of forgotten things. Old batteries, a business card from someone named Greg, possibly a rubber band so dry it counts as a fossil, and of course, the paperclip. Not one, not two, but a tangle, a metal nest. Pointless, proud, complicated. Some bent, some broken. Some fused together by friction and frustration. This is the afterlife of fastening. A clip, a corner, a quiet failure. It's unclear why we keep them. No one uses that many paper clips, and yet they accumulate. Like dust with ambition. You start with 5, then you find 10. Then somehow, you own 37 and a small handful that could legally be classified as shrapnel. Where do they come from? No one knows. Where do they go? Also unclear. Some theorize there's a drawer-to-drawer migration, where clips move silently at night, seeking warmer desk climates. We cannot confirm this, but we cannot rule it out. Then there are the non-standard clips, the eccentrics, the triangular one you got in a welcome packet, the neon one shaped like a treble clef, the clip that's actually a staple someone unbent, then gave up on. They live in the drawer too, outcasts in exile, slightly judgmental, a bureaucracy of uselessness. There is no hierarchy, only layers, a metallic sediment of intention and abandonment. The drawer does not complain, it simply receives, and yet, sometimes, a clip is called into action. You reach in, you feel around, you select one, carefully avoiding the gummy tack you no longer recognize. The clip is bent slightly. You try to use it anyway. It slips, fails, frowns in your fingers. You reach again. This continues until, against all odds, you find the one. Smooth, confident, cooperative. It binds, and for one moment, just one, the drawer forgives you. Paper clips do not retire. They are simply misplaced. Every drawer is a museum. Some just never get visitors. Office wildlife and the endangered clip. Every workplace is an ecosystem, and every ecosystem needs a small, forgotten species. The office is a jungle, but instead of vines, we have cords. Instead of predators, we have meetings. And instead of survival, we have savings. Within this artificial biome, the paperclip lives a quiet, nomadic life. It moves, not under its own power, but through transfer. You lend someone a document, they return it. The document is lighter, the clip is gone. Absence, acceptance, ambivalence. You do not ask. They do not mention it. The clip has moved on. This is how circulation works, not just of blood or gossip, but of objects so minor they defy ownership. The same clip may pass through 6 offices, 3 managers, 1 intern who thought it was a SIM card tool. Its value? Negligible. Its journey? Unrecorded. Its presence? Constant. There is a moment every few years when the office manager decides to reorder supplies. She opens a catalog. She stares at a page labeled Stationery, Fastening Solutions. She pauses. She sighs, then checks a box that says Standard Paper Clips. Box of 1,000. Why 1,000? Why not? It is the most ignored surplus in corporate history. Years later, the same box is found, open, mostly full, but never fully empty. No one remembers ordering it. No one questions its existence. It is the clip box, a cardboard arc of chrome. At some point, a junior employee tries to be clever. They bring in binder clips, bold, overconfident, black, and muscular. They hold papers with strength, too much strength. Documents are crumpled, torn, scolded. The binder clip, for all its might, is returned to the drawer, with attitude. Strength is not the same as grace. And the paper clip, once again, becomes necessary. In the wilds of the workplace, the clip survives, not because it's powerful, but because it's tolerable. The paper clip is not the hero, it's the extra, the background actor, the one who never forgets their mark. The science of mild containment. To hold without damage, to grip without teeth, that is the art of the clip. We often praise machines, devices, and inventions that change the world. Rarely do we acknowledge those that do just enough. Not too much, not too little, just barely sufficient. The paperclip is not ambitious. It does not stretch or glue or staple. It simply rests, tensioned, hopeful, available. This is not failure. It is design modesty. Let us examine the physics. You may yawn now, that's encouraged. A paperclip works through friction and elasticity. It holds pages by clamping them between its curves. Curves designed not by artistry, but by mild necessity. The inner loop presses outward. The outer loop presses inward. Somewhere in this barely engineered tension, papers stay together. A grip, a slide, a stillness. It's not strong, it's not weak, it is adequate. Engineers rarely study paperclips. There are no awards, no symposiums. There is only a quiet respect, like the kind you offer a bus that's always late, but somehow reliable. Function stripped of drama. When overused, the clip bends. When bent, it rebels. When rebelling, it either escapes the document or stabs your finger. You accept this. You nod. You do not complain. You simply choose another. There are always more. Let us now consider the lifespan. How long does a paperclip last? The answer: long enough to be ignored. They are not built to degrade. A clip can live in a desk, on a fridge, inside a sofa, beneath a copier, or in the bottom of a washing machine, next to a Eurocent and a button, and still work, sort of. It holds, not forever, but for now. And really, what else does anything do? The clip is not precise, but it is consistent. And in an inconsistent world, that's almost impressive. The Forgotten Inventors Club. Every great invention has a name behind it. The paperclip has a shadow of a maybe. We live in a world obsessed with origin stories. Who made it? When? Why? And more importantly, can we make a dramatized series about it? But some inventions resist biography. They slip through documentation, evade interviews, ignore legacy. The paperclip is one of them. There are claims. There is Johann Wahler, of course, Norwegian, hopeful, posthumously mistaken. There is the Gem Company of Britain, which may have produced the first successful clip, but didn't patent it. Then there are the unnamed engineers, tinkerers, clerks, metallurgists, filing specialists, men and women who twisted wire at desks and said nothing. Because what is there to say? It bends, it holds, that's enough. No statues were made, no biographies written, no children named Clipson in their honor. To create something truly forgettable is a strange kind of success. Other inventions got credit. The light bulb, the telephone, the steam engine, each with debates, rivalries, lawsuits. The paperclip? No fights, no fraud, no fanfare. Just the slow, quiet rise of something so obvious no one bothered to notice it was new. We celebrate innovation, but institutional adequacy? Rarely. The paperclip didn't disrupt anything. It didn't change the game. It simply joined the game, uninvited, and stayed on the bench. And yet, here it is, still used, still bent, still ignored. The perfect invention for people who don't care about inventions. There is no Hall of Fame. There is only the drawer. The true mark of success is when no one asks where you came from, only where you went. Other ways to hold paper, which are worse. To appreciate a thing, compare it to something slightly worse. Let us, for a moment, imagine a world without the paperclip. No looped wire, no mild compression, no half-hearted resistance to wind. What would we use? What did we use? 1. Pins, sharp, unapologetic, efficient, but also personal. They pierced paper, they pierced skin, they pierced trust. You could fasten 5 pages, or 2 if you liked your fingers. The pin was not a solution. It was a threat. 2. Thread and needle. Yes, really. In some offices, before the clip, someone sewed their files, one page to another, through holes, with care, like paper surgery. It was methodical, it was slow, it was distressing. Also, irreversible. To bind is human. To unbind, unlikely. 3. Folding the corners. A classic, a shortcut, a myth. You fold the top right, then the bottom left, then it unfolds immediately. Your papers fall and your hope with them. Folding paper never made it loyal. Also, corner folding was banned in certain archives. It was considered disrespectful to paper. 4. Rubber bands. Fun, chaotic, aggressively stretchy. Rubber bands held too much or not enough. They snapped, they cracked, they judged. A bundle of paper under a rubber band became a weapon, a threat to shelves, to dignity, to the band itself. There are no noble endings for rubber. 5. Staples. Ah, yes. The overachiever. Strong, permanent, loud. You use a stapler once, you feel powerful. You use it twice. It jams. You try to remove the staple. You destroy the document. You start over. You quit your job. Staples are final. Paperclips are hopeful. So when we look at the clip, its lightness, its humility, its willingness to let go, we begin to understand. It is not better by force. It is better by contrast. To choose the clip is to choose impermanence. To say, these papers belong together, for now. And that may be the most honest form of attachment we've ever invented. The sound a paperclip makes, and other observations. Some sounds don't echo, they just stop. You've likely never heard a paperclip. Not truly. There's no jingle, no snap, no elegant click like a pen cap, no mechanical sigh like a 3-hole punch. The sound a paperclip makes is subtle, polite, the sound of attempt. It slides from a desk, it lands on linoleum, and it makes a noise like chish. Not clink, not ping, just chish. The sound of a thing remembering that it was never meant to stand out. In meetings, it fidgets, passed between fingers, straightened unconsciously, bent into abstract shapes, loops, spirals, little hopeless sculptures of passive rebellion. It becomes a snake, a hook, a failed square, and still, you put it back on the paper, expecting it to work. And it does, sort of. A clip reshaped is a clip reborn, but weaker, always weaker. Its strength lies in repetition, not resistance. Every time you bend it, you ask it to remain useful. Every time it agrees. Until one day, silently, it doesn't. Now consider the drawer rattle. You open it too fast. 100 paperclips whisper across each other. Not a clash, a shimmer. Like metallic sand in a jar of regret. That sound, that dry metallic shuffle, is the closest thing to a paperclip's voice. It says, "We're still here. No rush." There is also the sound of a clip snapping open under tension. When you've added one page too many, it bends, slips, launches across the room like a very unimpressive comet. It is not dangerous, but it is annoying, which is worse somehow. The paperclip does not demand attention. It exists beneath notice and beneath noise. It has no voice, only presence, and the occasional chish. Paperclips at rest, a study in stillness. Stillness is not nothing. It is simply everything not happening yet. Picture a desk, any desk. Now imagine it untouched. No keyboard, no coffee cup, no chaos. Only one object remains, a paperclip, lying perfectly still, unbent, unused, unbothered. It is not waiting. It is not performing. It is simply there. The clip at rest is a lesson in non-participation. It does not lean. It does not stack. It does not nest well with others. It simply maintains its shape, somewhere between almost oval and deliberately unsure. A curve, a copy of itself, a denial of movement. Some people organize them into rows, into boxes, into neat satisfaction. Others let them roam across desks, carpets, inbox trays. They migrate slowly, one static accident at a time. There is a myth, undocumented, unstudied, that no one has ever used every paperclip in a box. You start with 50, you lose 3, you give away 5, you straighten 1, you find another in a jacket pocket from last year, you return to the box. It's still half full, or maybe half empty. It depends how late the meeting is. To count paperclips is not to control them, only to remind yourself that you once tried. Their stillness hides a secret. They are shapeless in potential. With enough boredom, a clip can become a bookmark, a sim tool, an earring briefly, a lockpick poorly, a dental hazard. But until then, it just rests. Some say this is wasteful, but perhaps, just perhaps, that's the point. A small, inert object, doing nothing, causing nothing, existing gently, without need. To rest is not failure. To be still is not absence. A paperclip, unused, is still a paperclip, and that somehow is enough. When a clip does nothing at all. Sometimes an object fulfills its destiny by doing precisely nothing. There is a moment, subtle, ignorable, when a paperclip is no longer useful. Not broken, not lost, just ignored. It sits on the desk, not attached to anything, not holding, not gripping, not resisting. It is functionally present, emotionally irrelevant. No one picks it up, no one puts it away. It becomes part of the background, next to a receipt, near a post-it, half shaded by a coaster stain from a cup that is now gone. The clip waits. Not for purpose, not for redemption, just because it hasn't been moved. Stillness as practice, stillness as permanence. One might ask, is this waste? Could it be used? Should it be reassigned, rebent, recycled? And the answer, gently, is why? It's not hurting anyone. It's not in the way. It's just there. To be inert is not to be an error. There are objects designed for action, tools, gadgets, instruments. But the clip, especially the unattached clip, becomes something else entirely. It becomes ornament, not decorative, just incidentally there. A speck of hardware in a sea of soft distractions. It may rest there for days, weeks, a fiscal quarter, until one day, without warning, it's gone. No one remembers moving it. No one remembers needing it. It simply disappears, like a temporary idea that forgot to become anything. Did it fall? Did it cling to a folder? Did it return to the drawer from which it came? You will never know. You will not ask. Because, and this is important, you do not care. It arrived without purpose, and it left without comment. Like most things, the clip's greatest moment was unnoticed. What we talk about when we talk about paper clips. It's never just about the thing. It's about the way we choose to ignore it. No one wakes up thinking about paper clips. They appear. On documents, in drawers, in pockets. They do not announce themselves. They simply arrive, like seasonal allergies or policy updates. But in the quiet, in the slow moment between clicking and closing, the clip becomes something more. A question, a metaphor, a placeholder for the things we don't finish. To clip papers is to hope they belong together, even if they don't, even if they won't, even if you'll forget why you clipped them in the first place. Clipping is commitment, but reversible. There's a strange comfort in that. Now consider the phrase, hold it together. Used for papers, used for people, used when things are falling apart. And the clip, that little looped wire, becomes the joke we're not quite making. A person says, I'm trying to hold it together. And we nod, knowing full well that the grip is weak, that it wasn't meant to last, that it'll give under pressure. A metaphor, a gesture, a gentle lie. Perhaps that's why the clip remains. because we relate to it. Not impressive, not durable, but trying. Twisted into shape, pressed into service, and rarely thanked. Even in digital spaces where paper is gone, the clip lingers. The email attachment icon, a paperclip, unnecessary, outdated, symbolic. We still use it. Why? Because to attach something means to connect it, even briefly, even artificially, even if no one opens the file. The paperclip does not pretend to be more than it is. That's why it remains honest and ignored. In a world full of bold solutions, sometimes mild restraint is all we ask for. Mild intent on the morality of holding things gently. A paperclip never forces, it only suggests. Some objects dominate, they push, clamp, seal. They declare, "This is final." The paperclip does not, it leans in, it whispers, "These papers probably go together, but you decide." This is nonviolent organization, the art of loose certainty. The clip holds only as long as the user allows. It offers no lock, no click, no oath. You can remove it with one hand while eating a sandwich during a meeting you regret attending. Power in its softest form looks like accommodation. In this way, the paperclip reflects an almost philosophical stance. It does not conquer, it coexists. It doesn't impose permanence, it offers temporary alignment. And isn't that, in the end, what most relationships are? Think of a paperclip on a stack of essays, group work, presentations, reports, each page its own idea, bound, for now, by shared fate and deadline anxiety. The clip doesn't care. It holds until it doesn't have to. The real question is not how well the clip holds. The real question is, when do we decide something no longer needs to be together? That's not engineering, that's judgment, and the clip, it abides. There's something vaguely ethical in its design. No glue, no puncture, no destruction. It touches paper, but does not invade it. And when it's gone, nothing is broken. It leaves no trace, only the suggestion that things were once briefly united. Sometimes people straighten them out, use them as tools, or distractions, or confessions. They bend, they twist, they revert, but rarely do they snap. Even in misuse, there is cooperation. The paperclip teaches nothing, and yet in its mildness offers everything. To hold without harming, to connect without control, to be forgotten but useful once. A loop inside a loop, and then nothing. The paperclip is not a circle, but it's trying. At a glance, the paperclip is simple, but look closer. It is a loop within a loop, a shape pretending to be another shape, a wire folding in on itself, not from confusion, but from compliance. It is the architecture of indecision, not quite closed, not quite open, something in between. Its curves have no purpose beyond containment. Its metal has no goal beyond repetition. And yet, it continues to exist, silently. You cannot sharpen it, you cannot charge it, you cannot update its firmware. It is the same now as it was in 1903. Unbothered by innovation, unaffected by progress, it does not improve, it persists. Let us now imagine, pointlessly, what it would be like to reinvent it. Would we add magnets, Bluetooth, a biodegradable core made of organic turnip fiber, and then, having done all that, would it work better? No. Because the point of the clip is not how it holds. The point is that it doesn't hold very hard. That is the genius, and the flaw, and the lesson we will ignore. In a world of forceful solutions, the paperclip remains. Politely temporary. It resists ownership. It resists finality. It is the anti-gadget, the unproduct, the quiet rebuttal to efficiency. And when it finally breaks, unbends, snaps, or disappears into a floorboard, no one mourns it, no one sighs, no one pauses. You simply reach for another and continue. It came from a loop. It lived in a loop. It ended, off the edge of a desk. And so concludes the least essential object we never stopped using, the paperclip that held nothing. Some stories don't begin. They're already halfway through when you notice them. Somewhere right now there is a paperclip. It is not clipped to anything. It is not near paper. It has no context, no assignment, no ambition. It simply exists. On a shelf, on the floor, on the arm of a chair, balanced like a tiny sculpture of meaningless loyalty. We don't remember where it came from or what it once held, if it held anything at all. Some objects live a life that never intersects with purpose. It may have fallen, it may have been placed, it may have been waiting, but for what? Nothing. And yet, we don't throw it away. Why? Because throwing it away would imply it's no longer useful, which would imply it was useful, which would require us to care. We do not care, but we do not discard it. The paperclip exists in the perfect balance between disinterest and obligation. There's something comforting about it. A form so generic, so neutral, so humble, it becomes a symbol of non-choice. You didn't choose it. You didn't ask for it. But you'll keep it, just in case. And that's enough. There are many things we don't need. Some of them are louder about it than others. The paperclip makes no demands. It asks for no space. And when it fails, it does so without spectacle. It just slides off, or opens slightly, or disappears. You won't notice it's gone. You won't notice that it was ever there. And still, it was. Somewhere in the background of your task, your thought, your week. There it lay. It held nothing. And in doing so, it freed us from remembering what it was ever for. The paperclip didn't lose its job. It simply stepped aside. After use, the life beyond clipping. Not everything ends when its purpose does. Some things just keep existing nearby. There is no moment when a paperclip knows it's finished. No beep, no fade, no thank you message, just absence. The papers are removed, the stack is separated, the task is completed or abandoned, and the clip, it remains, quiet, crooked, still holding a shape that once meant something. Like a retired bridge, still spanning nothing. What do we do with these relics? Sometimes we toss them into the drawer. Sometimes we leave them on a desk. Sometimes we put them in our pocket, forget them and find them 6 weeks later inside the lining of a winter coat. They are not trash, but they are not tools. They are post-tools. The world is full of objects that were once invited and are now just tolerated. The paperclip joins that category with grace, never resentful, never nostalgic, simply present. Now imagine this, a bowl on a reception counter, full of spare clips, all used, none labeled, a miniature retirement home, a graveyard of mild achievement. No one sorts them, no one cleans them. They just exist, together and alone. There are paperclips that haven't clipped anything in years, and there are those that never clipped anything at all. Still, we treat them the same, because, in the end, all clips share the same truth. They might be needed, one day, maybe, possibly, or not. Not every object has to justify its presence. Some can simply be near us, like echoes of efficiency we no longer require, but aren't ready to forget. It was once useful, now it is simply not in the way. And sometimes that's enough to keep something around. Not everything ends with purpose. Some things fade into continued permission. Conclusion without consequence. Every story has an ending. This one just drifts away. We began with wire. We passed through drawers, desks, disasters, and deliberate nothingness. And now, the clip rests. not in triumph, not in defeat, but in familiar invisibility. There will be no statue, no song, no memory that matters. But somewhere, in a folder, in a file, between two sheets of something once important, a clip still holds. Weakly, briefly, honestly. People come and go. Offices rise and fall. Software updates. Policies shift. Systems collapse. And the clip? Still here. Not unchanged. Just unimpressed. Some things are too simple to break, too humble to fail, too boring to disappear. The paperclip doesn't ask you to notice it. That's its strength and its fate. You'll forget this story, as you should. It was never meant to be remembered. It was meant to accompany sleep, or silence, or that strange stretch of time between tasks. Like the object it honors, this story holds things together, just enough. Not tightly, not permanently, just for now. A loop, a shape, a memory of purpose. And now, nothing more. Good night.